Hello and welcome back to the Battle Room. I'm, of course, the Battle Room. And today I wanted to break down the teams from the first ever official online global challenge. So the global challenge is a little bit different because the first one was like the warm-up battle or whatever it was called. That one was just simply for fun, to test the servers, to see what we were cooking, to see what we were running with. This one literally had the qualifiers on the line for both Korea and Japan. So Western players, we simply played for fun, but the Japanese players, the Korean players were going so hard, right? They were trying their hardest to get those qualifications, as you can see here. So yeah, I wanted to talk about their teams, talk about what we saw. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of Western players here, mainly because I think Western players could play for the win, whereas Korean and Japanese players just wanted to get enough points to qualify for their respective nationals. So let's just start at the top and make this really simple. So the first team we're going to be checking out is Fede Campo's team. Fede Campo, for those who do not know, is an incredible player. He won NAIC 2025 and he did win the GC with Ariados. So these were the 6 that he used. So this team might not fully be up to date with whatever he actually used. He said he was going to make a post and a video about it later, but this was the team that he was using the day prior with the same 6 Pokemon with Ariados. So basically, I think the way that Ariados works, I actually did make a video using this team as well, if you want to check it out. But Ariados, I think what makes it good is that it completely walls Sneasler. I think String Shot is a very good move for speed control, but walling Sneasler is extremely lit, right? Like being able to just pair it next to stuff like Sylveon or even like Charizard and just being like, hey, I'm just gonna press Rage Powder and I'm gonna press my spread move. What are you gonna do about it? I think this is a really well made team. I think it's also really fun. I think that all the spread moves just make this team so overwhelming to deal with. I think the main idea here is that you are just trying to spam Rock Slide, trying to spam Heat Wave, Earthquake, Hyper Voice. Literally the first 4 Pokemon have spread moves. So I think the team itself is like kind of easy to play for the most part. Obviously, there is a lot of depth to it. You have double mega, you got to know when to bring which one. But I think the main idea is just trying to do as much damage as humanly possible. We've got Sash, Bascu, Legion as well to try and round things out, clean up the end game, do a lot of damage. And also, you know, like in the early game, it can trade with some nice, juicy liquidations. I think that this team is something that we've seen very similarly, but the Ariados does add another dimension to it and gives it that Rage Powder, which I think is really good in this format. It doesn't really matter if it's Ariados pressing it. If you have Rage Powder, you're chilling. Now, Fede Campo was nice enough to post this ID on his Twitter, so if you want to test this one out, go for it. I think this one is really fun. Some of the teams we're going to be covering today have IDs, but then some of them don't. Some of them we just have Pokemon and items. Yeah, and some of them we just don't have anything, so I'm not really going to cover those. I'm just mainly covering on the ones that we have concrete stuff to talk about. So next up here in second place is Daniel Thorp, who was using kind of an insane team. And now Daniel actually did give us the full code so we can test it out. And I think it's really interesting and also really scary. I'm really wondering how if these type of teams are going to catch on, because it looks incredibly strong. Now remember, it did get second place with a rating of 1877. Fede Campo kind of blew the rating out of the water. He won by almost like, what is that, like 15 points? That's kind of insane. But yeah, this team did get second with Calm Mind, Baton Pass, Espathra. So I think the main idea for this team is it's pretty simple, but I think it is very scary, right? I think the idea is you lead Espathra and you lead something like Sableye, probably Sableye, right? And then you set up your screens and then you start Calm Minding, right? You literally get the Calm Mind boost, so you get +1 special attack, +1 special defense, but then Espathra also gets a speed boost, so now you get +1 speed. And now you're sitting there, you're chilling, you have 3 boosts, and it's very hard to kill because you set up a screen and a Calm Mind, and then you bring in that Floette. Like, you could go for a second Calm Mind if you think it's possible, because Sableye also does have Disable, Encore, and Reflect, so you have both screens to do what you want to. But then if you're kind of annoyed, you're like, hey, King Game went for Kowtow Cleave, I lived that. But you know what? I'm going to disable it and then go for another Calm Mind, right? And then when you're finally ready, you probably just need one. But then you just Baton Pass, give Floette the boosts, and you just win the game, right? Like, the Floette isn't the one setting up and is instead the one sweeping. Especially paired with the speed boost, it makes Floette seem unstoppable, right? Like, this is literally almost like geomancy levels of power on a fairy or a floette. This is truly Xerneas. But then at the same time, you also have, a really solid rain mode with both Archaludon and Politoed. You have Sinestro to keep that floette healthy and also to give it Rage Powder. It just looks like such an incredible team, and I think a team not a lot of players were prepared for. And I do wonder, is a Spothra the future? I feel like a Spothra has been, in the murmurs. People have been discussing it quietly in their team building groups, but we haven't seen it really pop off. But second place in the global challenge is an insane pop off for a Spothra. So I'm very curious to see where it goes from here. So again, this was the second place team. So next up we have Joji, who gave us Charizard, which is not very useful. Congrats to Joji for doing so well. He usually wins these things, so it's kind of crazy that he was dethroned. Nothing here from Kaito, and then Tabu here gave us a Scovillain. So the next person we can discuss and talk about is Wolfe Glick. So Wolf got 5th in this tournament with a self-proclaimed one-hit KO team, but it was a one-hit KO team plus Perish, so we do get to see the GOAT play Perish Song, which is very, very exciting. Now, Wolf didn't give a code yet. He may in a future video, but you can also subscribe to his Patreon if you want his code. I can't believe I'm shelling out Wolf's Patreon, but his team is there. But let's talk about what we can see here, because he did thankfully at least give us all the moves and items, so we can at least talk about it and think about it. So obviously the Perish core is usually pretty simple. You start with Mega Gengar with Shadow Ball, Perish Song, Protect, right? That's the essential #1 starting piece. The second Pokemon you always add is Incineroar. Incineroar with Fake Out, Parting Shot, Protect, and Throat Chop is the standard. Wolf decided to run Pasho Berry though, which I think is really cool. I think water type moves are very scary, and I think it gives a lot of flexibility, especially to the Perish mode, to play it into stuff like Rain, which is definitely rising in popularity. I'm a big Pasho Incin fan. I tested it out at the beginning of Pokemon Champions and I loved it. But then the second piece you usually have, or the third piece, I guess, is technically usually Sinestro. I think Cine just is so good, right? Like being able to press Rage Powder for your Gengar, but also being able to potentially heal it to survive another huge crucial hit is really strong. So I think Cine, Gengar, Incin makes a lot of sense. Politoed is your second Perish Song user, so you're able to get it going. I think those 4 alone make a very solid and concrete good Perish Traps team, right? But usually Perish Trap teams usually Perish Trap teams have a second mode, and usually they have something like Como, they have something a little bit more aggressive, something to kind of blend the modes together. But Wolf decided to use a one-hit KO Hawlucha Snorlax combo. Now Snorlax I think is probably one of the best Pokemon to do the one-hit KO strat, because he's so bulky. Fissure's a great move to do it with. One-hit KO teams just haven't, they've been in the game since the beginning, but they just haven't really popped off as much as you would, I guess, kind of expect them to. Like at the same time, they're very telegraphed, so it's easy to say, hey, I wonder what he's doing turn 1. But I think what makes it really cool here is that the fact that it is paired with Perish, because something that's going to answer Hawlucha Snorlax is not going to necessarily answer Incineroar or Gengar lead. So I think it is a cool combination, and I want to try it out. It looks like a fun team, and I think obviously Wolf piloting a Perish Song team is that's just going to be cinema and art. But then at the same time, having that silly little one-hit KO potential Gambit is kind of nice as well. So I think it's a cool set. I think the Snorlax Hawlucha combo is pretty good. And funnily enough, I actually did see a really high up Snorlax Hawlucha player in the 2500s with a team kind of centered around it. So maybe Hawlucha Snorlax is just the sauce, and maybe that's what we've been doing wrong with the one-hit KO strats, but we'll see. I think Wolf's team is overall really sick though. I think it is a very cool, very, just good airtight Perish Song team with a silly little Oko mode. So I'm excited to see if he'll give us the full rental code, but for now, that's what we got. Then next up, we have Marco Fiero, also known as Marco Silva here, with a team. He did not give us the actual like paste, but we do have all the moves and items here. So let's take a peek here. So I think his team is kind of cool. I think Fergraph is like relatively pretty strong. I think it's definitely not sleeper, but I think Trick Room is just not used enough in this format. So I think Fergraph is just the premier Trick Room setter. Also, Marco had an insane Aegislash moveset with Shadow Sneak, Wide Guard, Iron Head, and Close Combat. Again, this is a best of 1 close team sheet tournament, so being able to just lock in and just have all the coverage and wide guard seems super sick. Well, wide guard is also just a move that you just never expect to see on Azy Slash. And then also having that focus sash is really cool as well. Otherwise, it is pretty standard fare. We see Charizard paired with Garchomp. The Solar Beam #1 is really throwing me off, but Charizard paired with Garchomp, godlike combo. The Aegis Slash does synergize well with them. He's a really good switch, but also more importantly, spamming Wide Guard for Charizard is just very, very strong. We've seen it win the biggest tournament of all time, and I just think Wide Guard Charizard, it's a match made in heaven, right? But then it gets a little bit interesting with this Trick Room mode. We have Incineroar on the Sun team, which is something you don't see a ton of. Like, Incineroar is very, very good, but I feel like his prevalence on Sun teams has all but diminished. I don't think he's very popular there, but Marco locked him in. And then he also mentioned that Incineroar and Sylveon both speed tie, so he's able to scout the speed of King Gambits early in the game, which I think is really, really interesting. Normally, you never see players intentionally speed tie a Pokemon. Usually if you're going to do something like this, you put them like one speed apart. For example, like Incineroar can be 80, Sylveon's 81, but Marco just didn't even want to risk that. He said, if they speed tie with me, then I'm screwed, but otherwise I am checking this guy out and I know where his speed will sit. So I think that was a really crazy call. But I also think Sylveon is very, very good, especially in Trick Room. As I mentioned earlier, I think that Trick Room is a little bit of a sleeper strat right now. Like, it's not sleeper. Everyone knows what Trick Room is and how good it is. It's won how many worlds, right? It's a fantastic move. One of the best in the game. But what I think is really cool is I think Sylveon is just such a good blend and probably one of the best Trick Room sweepers. I've been really, really impressed by all the Sylveon on the Sun teams lately. It seems like it is definitely a way that Sun teams are trending. Charizard, Garchomp, Sylveon, just a really, really good core. But I think what makes Marco's team cool is having this potential to sweep in Trick Room with Sylveon. Like, nothing wants to take Hyper Voices, so you set up Trick Room, you spam Helping Hand. What are they going to do about it? You know what I mean? I think it's a very, very cool team, and I think Marco really cooked with this one, so yeah. So next up here, we have Mattia with the team. I definitely mispronounced that one, but we just have their items and no moves or anything here. But we see, kind of an interesting Floette team. We see, obviously, we have the setup from Sneasler, but also we have both Farigiraf and Whimsicott, which is kind of wild. You just have kind of the best Pokemon in the game, though, right? Like Sneasler, Floette, Basculegion, King Gambit, all very, very strong Pokemon, and then 2 supports. Now, obviously, there's not too much to go on here, but I do think pairing Floette with something like Farigiraf is kind of neat, and also having Basculegion plus Farigiraf, I think, is very strong to dodge those sucker punches. So, I think a cool take on Floette that we don't see very often. And then we didn't have anything else, but we do have number 11 here with no items even, but we do see Conkeldurr and Sableye at the highest level. Charizard, King Gambit, Basculegion, obviously all very, very strong, all very, very good. But Arcoludon paired on this team is kind of crazy, and same with Conkeldurr. Those are 2 Pokemon that you just don't see. Well, Arcoludon you see a decent amount. I think he's on the rise, but Conkeldurr, I think that he's kind of terrible. I don't think he's been shining very well at all. I don't think he's been doing well, but Conkeldurr is here, and I mean, he is good in the King Gambit, so I would be very curious to see what kind of sauce they did have there. So the next team we have here is from Alex Soto, also known as Len, normally known for hard Trick Room, but in this case is playing Perish Trap as well. This is more what I expect from Perish Song types of teams, usually with that Como in the last slot. I think Como pairs incredibly well with Gengar. It's immune to Perish Song, but also it just provides really, really good offensive threat, right? But we see actually almost identical picks to Wolf here. Actually, this is kind of nuts. Everything's almost the exact same. Including the Pasho and Incineroar. It really is just those last 2 Pokemon. Yeah, I think. Oh, and then Wolf had Trick Room on Sinestro, but Len has Life Dew instead. But I mentioned it before. We'll break it down again. Those first 4 Pokemon create such a deadly and amazing Perish Song team, right? Like, it is just hard Perish Song through and through. It's very, very difficult to break these Pokemon or to stop Perish Song without a very, very firm and good plan. And I think what makes it really, really cool as well is obviously you can lead Gengar Instant, but you can also lead Tankaton plus Gengar. And you can set up really, really sick Encore disabled traps with both of them. It's just sick, right? And then they're trapped in, they can't move, they can't kill you, and then they're slowly dying to your Siren Song. I think Tinkaton is actually very cool with Mega Gengar. We've seen players like Edu use it as well. I think it's just kind of a good, solid Pokemon. It also does really, really well into stuff like Floette, which is a huge problem for a Pokemon like Como. And I think also Tinkaton can totally enable Como. You can just lead Fake Out, set up your Conglorious Soul, and then you can threaten the fairy types with Gigaton Hammer. I think this is a really, really incredible team, and I think Len really cooked with Parasong. I think Parasong is just a very, very good and solid strategy, and I think we're going to see it all throughout Champions. It's so difficult to play, but when a good player plays Parasong, they go nuts with it. I think what's really interesting too is that this is closed team sheet, right? Where I think this type of team and Wolf's type of team are very telegraphed. So it's even more impressive to me that they don't even have anything too crazy like move wise on the team. They're just outplaying you with Parasong, and they're just better. So congrats to both Len and Wolf for just piloting Parasong better than everyone else. So next up here we have Michael Kelch. Michael Bestie, one of the best players in the world, who is using a team very, very similar to what he's ran in the past. So this was the team that Michael ran in the Grand Champions Festival. He may have made some slight edits and changes to it, but he did post a rental code then, so I assume it's very similar, if not the same. So if you want to test out Michael's team, I have it for you there. It is from his YouTube channel, which I'll link down below. You should definitely go check him out. He does a whole breakdown on this team. So if you're interested in how this kind of balancy Parasong team, or it's not even Parasong, it's just a Mega Gengar team, how this Gengar team plays, I'll link it down below so you can check it out. Yeah, it's just a really, really cool team. I think it's just like being able to trap things is just so broken. Obviously he does have Disable plus Encore on the Ninetales plus Gengar combination, so he is able to set up potential pins that way. But I think overall his team is just so solid, right? It uses a lot of the best Pokemon. You're able to set up really cool pins with Scarf. Garchomp. Garchomp also has double ground, double rock. So he's able to rock tomb things, help enable Gengar a little bit. And then that Aegislash is really, really sick as well, as it is just a very, very, dare I say, good King Gambit counter. Which is kind of crazy to say, but I think it is pretty neat how it's able to interact positively into King Gambit. Yeah, I think this team has a ton of pivot, a ton of really, really oppressive, strong Pokemon, and I think it's a great team to try out. And then next up here, we have number 15th place with kind of a crazy team. I wish we could see more about it, but we have Sash Aerodactyl to help set up Tailwind, Charizard, obviously, of course, Citrus Basculegion, which I think is very, very neat because I feel like this is such a cool Tail Room team. I think that this team looks so sick, right? Because all of the Pokemon can abuse Tailwind, right? Like Basculegion, Meganium, King Gambit. They're just fast enough. King Gambit not so much, but the other two specifically are so good at Tailwind, right? But Tailwind is very popular. It's everywhere. How do you counter Tailwind? With Trick Room. So this team does have Farigiraf as well with a Colbur Berry to guarantee set up that Trick Room, which I think is really sick because you could lead Farigiraf, set up Trick Room, and then Meganium can start going crazy. Charizard could start going crazy. But then also in the late game, both Basculegion and King Gambit can completely clean up. In Trick Room, I think Basculegion can be a demon. If you don't run much speed on it, it will start to underspeed things. It definitely shouldn't, and will catch opponents off guard. And he can just start sweeping with last respects. So I think it's a very, very cool team. We don't know too much about it, but I have a really strong feeling that it's just a very strong Tail Room team, which I think we don't see barely any of. So it's sick that we see it here because it did very, very well. And then we have number 16 here with a Dragonite Scizor Rain team. I think that this type of combination of Megas is very strong. I think Scizor paired with Mega Dragonite is a really good combo. Usually whenever you use Scizor or Scovillain, in my opinion, they both just suck into Charizard. And Charizard's the best guy. So being able to have a Mega that matches up well into Charizard is always very beneficial. And I think Dragonite does that. Usually Scovillain will run Mega Aerodactyl, but Dragonite works perfectly fine. He's able to trade really, really well with Charizard. He can set up Tailwind in Charizard's face, and then you can bring in the Rain later. Because I think what makes Dragonite so good is that he can just sit there in the sun and spam Dragon Pulse or spam Tailwind, and then you can bring in the Rain later when it's advantageous. So I think it's a very cool combination. Otherwise, we see kind of the normal Rain guys. We see Pelipper, Archaludon. Chople Berry is pretty interesting, but it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you can take the close combat really, really well, and it's something they might not expect. Scarf Basculegion, which works incredibly in Rain. And then Incineroar as well with Pasture Berry. just to help set up Scizor or to help set up those Tailwinds. All right, next up here, we have Pseudos with a team that might look a little familiar here. This is basically the team that Rogov used to win the Grand Champions Festival with. It obviously might have some slight variations or slight differences. We don't actually know, but either way, it's the same 6 Pokemon here. So if you're trying to use it, I kind of made a guide with Rogov on how to use the team. We covered leads, we covered everything. Leads and everything, right? Leads, EV spreads, moves, matchup plans, basically everything you could need to pilot the team. It's an exceptional team, and I think it just lets a good player be good, and you just get to use some of the strongest Pokemon in the game. So it makes sense that a good player would do well with the team. And then next we have Santino, who used a very, very similar, if not the same team here. We see those 6 Pokemon. Boom, we see those 6 Pokemon here. I don't think he really made any changes whatsoever to his team. It's just this one is actually like kind of a balanced parish team, which I think is very, very strong. I think Santino really cooked with this one. Having the Parish Song mode paired with the Incineroar, but also just having like really strong, good Pokemon in Dragonite, Ninetales, Sneasler, and Kingambit just makes it such a scary team to play into, right? Like if you let your guard down for a second and you play into double stabs Gengar and you're like, okay, I'm getting perished, but he just goes for damage, it seems very difficult to call and difficult to navigate playing against this type of team, right? Because you can't cover for everything. And I think that's what makes this team so good. And obviously Santino's a fantastic player, but this is, he might have made changes. I don't know what exactly he used in the GC, but this is the team with the rental code that he was using prior in the Grand Champions Festival. So if you'd like to test it out, there you go. I think it is a very, very cool and strong team. And then we have Nay, who I believe gave us a team here. They did. We have this team is really funny. I just want to talk about it a little bit because I think that it's hilarious, right? Like we have the Charizard Venusaur combination. I don't think we need too much of a crazy imagination to understand the sets here, but having Charizard paired with Venusaur, obviously very, very potent, very strong. You're able to spam Sleep Powder. You're able to put pressure on. Scarf Garchomp has been kind of rising, it feels like. He's very good. He's very fast, very strong. Milotic as well. Most likely just like an Icy Wind Life Dew set. I think having Ice Beam and Icy Wind is really, really potent. Having one of the two, right, is very good in the Sun into Garchomp, who's one of Charizard's biggest ops. So I think Milotic pairs well there. Also very well into Incineroar. And then the star of the team here, you see Fairy Feather Floette. Now that is nasty work, and I kind of love it. Because again, this is closed sheets best of one. Why not just run Fairy Feather? They won't know it's coming, dude. They're not going to expect you to bring it necessarily if they see the Charizard. But then, even if you do bring it, you have that little extra oomph, that little extra damage because you are running an item and not a Mega Stone. Just cool. Cool item, cool choice. And then we just have a Chople Berry Kingambit to close it out. And then we have a lot of no information. I will link this down below. If you guys want to like go through the teams and look at it yourself, I'll link it below. I just wanted to cover as many of them as I could that posted it. Next up, we have Marcus here, who's using kind of a Protect the Queen Floette comp. We have Incineroar, Sinestcha, and Floette, and Aerodactyl. Now, I think that this type of team has been very, very, and Sneasler as well to help enable Floette. This type of team has been very, very successful. It has done very well, but it also seems to be falling out of favor a little bit. I feel like a lot of the damage can be overwhelming for Floette, and I think Calm Mind kind of sucks sometimes. It's just not the boosts you want. You don't have that speed. And you rely heavily on, like just protecting Floette while it sets up its boosts. But you do have double fake out, you do have Rage Powder for it, and then you have Tailwind to give it that speed. So I think it is pretty neat. And then the second Mega of Delphox I think is strong, just because you're able to kind of threaten some of the Pokemon that are more annoying for Floette, such as Mega Gengar or Sneasler, right? Obviously you can still bring Floette into those matchups, but I think having a secondary Mega does feel pretty good. And then next up here we have Francesco with a pretty similar rain team to what we've been talking about, but this time just opting for Dragonite and having no Scizor. Actually, this is just Aaron's team. This is just Aaron Zhang's team. So yeah, that's just Aaron's team. So yeah, if you want to test out this team, Aaron did give a code down below. I think it's just simply an incredible team. I think it is very easy to use, and you just kind of make your Archaludon into this unkillable demon, and I think Aaron really cooked with this one, as he always does, but I think he kind of pushed the meta forward a little bit, and I think people are very interested in trying Sableye plus Archaludon, and I think this is a great place to start. And I think that's a cool team. And then next up, we have Seawolf Mikes, who ran kind of a Rain Room team, similar to the stuff we've been talking about with Furgraf, but this time opting for Rain. Like a rain mode with both Basket Legion and Pelipper. It's very interesting to see Mystic Water Basket Legion. That's something that we just don't see in the current format. But pairing that with Pelipper, it still does a lot of damage, and it's still something you have to respect. I think Furgraf obviously is very good, as allows protection for both Basket Legion. And there's a Scarf Arcaludon there. That's horrifying. And then White Herb Ensign as well. Wow. It's a guarantee get that Trick Room up. It's a very cool team though, and I think a lot of people would be caught off guard about with a lot of these like more interesting sets, right? Like Mystic Water Basket Legion and Scarf Arcaludon are both pretty solid, but something you're not going to see coming in a best of one. And then also having Floette as well, probably pretty slow to help abuse Trick Room, which would be very, very cool. Then we got Juan here, who just showed us that he was using Skullvillain, so Skullvillain did well. And then we have Teotime, one of the best players in Europe, honestly, kind of having an insane season, and they actually gave us the whole team. So we have a Como Mega Scizor Tyranitar team. Obviously, again, I think Scizor's weak to Charizard, so having that secondary Mega that beats Charizard in Tyranitar is very, very strong. But this is very much like a protect the Como or protect the Scizor comp. We're not seeing a ton of Sinestro, but on this type of team, I think it's very, very cool. Especially you have Ensign to help enable both of them. It's kind of just a very traditional, like, hey, I'm going to set up Sword Stance, I'm going to set up Kangoria's Soul. What are you going to do about it, right? And then pairing that with a really, really strong Pokemon like Basket Legion to close out games, or Tyranitar to help you with Sun. Very, very cool team. I think I'm going to try this one tonight, low-key. It's looking real good, real juicy. I think Scizor is just in a really, really good spot. I really like Scizor paired with Como as well, just because Como's biggest headache is fairies, most notably Floette, who Scizor loves to see. He loves to punch Floette right in the face. And so I think pairing them together makes a lot of sense. And then having the Incineroar to help enable both of them is super lit. I think it's a very cool team from Teotime. And then we have Jocario here, who gave us the whole team here with... Wow, that's actually insane. We have Chandelure with Imprison. We have Whimsicott. We have Psychic Floette. Okay, that's nasty. That's nasty. I like that. Psychic Floette is hilarious. Garchomp to help sweep. Also, notably no EQ on Garchomp, which is kind of crazy. That Basket Legion that we see all the time. But yeah, Chandelure. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of nuts. And then we have a little bit of a drought here. We only have 4 more left. Lewis was running something very, very similar to Aaron's team. But instead has Mega Venusaur, but it's still kind of that same idea, right? The Sableye plus the Arcaludon is just a very, very good combo. You have the really strong rain guys. You just kind of have a Mega that you just pick. Like, I feel like half the time they just pick one, and then you can just put it on this team, and it's just godlike. What was Oscar running? Oscar was also running Mega Floette. Interesting. Or not Mega Floette. Yeah, he's running Mega Floette. Running a Spathra as well here. Could a Spathra be the new sauce? So I found the code here if you want to use it. This team is crazy. So we have the Calm Mind of Spathra to help enable either Floette or Delphox, right? Like, this is very much a Floette-centric team. But instead, you also have Sneasler to potentially coaching the Espathra so that it becomes bulky on the physical side as well. And you can baton pass both. You can baton pass an Omni Boost with this team. A fucking Omni Boost. That is so sick. Because you could coaching, Calm Mind, you're going to get attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed all in one. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. And then we have Stored Power Delphox to just start sweeping teams. You have 2 Pokemon to pass to. This is disgusting. This is absolutely disgusting work. Again, code right there if you want to try it out. Congrats to Swamp for doing so well. That team is actually evil. And then we have... okay, we've got Milotic Sun paired with Sylveon again. I think Sylveon is really good on Sun right now. I like it a little bit more than Floette because I think it is a Charizard team usually. So having Floette, and also this team has Mega Aerodactyl as well. So you do have double Mega, you don't want 3. So you do miss that fairy coverage. I think Citrus Berry Garchomp is so fire. I really like this 6. I think also having the double competitive users is always, define competitive is always kind of nice, specifically into Incineroar. But yeah, there's nothing too much to say because we don't have the paste. And then we finally have a Japanese team who just showed us that they were using Lopunny. So I'll link this down below. Obviously, as more teams are revealed or people tweet about it, we will get potentially more teams on the site. But for now, that is what we're working with. Again, I tried to find as many teams as I could. I went to their Twitters to try and give you the pace. If they shared them. But yeah, I think a lot of these teams are very, very cool. And if you're looking for teams to ladder with, these are the ones. They did so well in Close Sheet Best of 1 that why not? Why not try them out? But once again, congrats to Fede Campo for winning the entire thing. The future's looking bright for him. And we'll see you guys next time.